Hey everybody, welcome back to Starseed Oracle. I'm so grateful to have you here. Today we're going to be looking at Venus and Saturn, and I'm really excited because this archetype has a lot of meaning for me personally. This combination is one that I hold in my own personal chart, and definitely a combination that I have been on a long journey with myself. So I'm really looking forward to the messages that want to come through in the pick a card, and also I'm going to share with you a little bit before that, just on these two planets themselves and kind of the energy of how they interact together. So feel free to stick around to listen to this, or if you want to jump directly to the pick a card, you can do so in the timestamps listed in the description. So I laid out these cards, which really speak both to Venus on the left here and then Saturn on the right. And then I put the lovers in the center, which to me is the combination of them coming together. So we have reception here, which is the Empress, and we have justice. And both of these, Venus rules Taurus and Libra. And these cards often represent Taurus with the Empress and Libra for justice. And then on this side we have death and the devil, which can be seen sometimes as Capricorn energy. And I definitely relate both of these cards in my own practice to Saturn. And I put the lovers in the center because I really feel like that's such a good example of the two coming together. Often we see on the lovers card an actual marriage happening, and so many times like when we see in a synastry chart, so two charts coming together, being laid on top of each other and looking at how the planets are speaking to one another. If there are Venus-Saturn contacts between synastry charts, it's often looked at as that it's going to be a lasting connection. So I really associate that with like commitment, with marriage, just the longer term partnerships that we have in our lives. And at the same time, the lovers card being that representation of Saturn, where, when we make a choice, that means all the other choices that we could have had have to die, essentially. And so there is kind of that separating fact of Saturn when we make a choice, like having to let go of all of the other options. And so when it involves Venus, that can often be around the choice in partnerships, whether to stay, whether to go, questions along those lines. So the Venus-Saturn archetype, I feel, gets a lot of negative attention. It was definitely one of those things when I was first learning astrology that felt really disempowering for me personally, and also also validating, because it is true, like the way that Venus-Saturn can come through can be really difficult and really isolating and challenging. But I think more often than not, I see descriptions of this combination just really hanging on to the just heaviness of it. And like, I think one of the first things I read was just some article that was called Suffering for Love. And I was like, okay, hard relate, but also, oh my God, is this going to be the rest of my life? And I think that people who are new to astrology, maybe you can relate to this, where you're just Googling all sorts of things, or looking in different books and trying to understand what's wrong with me, or what is my life? And when we come across descriptions of certain parts of ourselves, especially the really sensitive ones and the places with Saturn where we're supposed to grow over time, it can be really confusing and really disheartening to read descriptions of these combinations that focus so heavily upon the struggles and the trials that we're going to have to go through, and the pain and the suffering that is experienced through this, and not ever sort of getting to another way of understanding them. So for me, Venus and Saturn, like learning how to work with the energy in a way that like deeply supports like blossoming of love, that deeply supports like long-term growth of my own devotion to creativity, of my own understanding of my values. You know, these have been like crucial parts of me becoming the person who I am. And so I think if, you know, in your own personal chart, wherever Saturn is, that's the place you're meant to grow over your lifetime. And that's difficult because that means we're making these choices, right? Like Saturn is going to show us whether that choice was right for us or maybe it wasn't, or like we still have some refining to do there. And you know, there's so much beauty, I think, with Venus and Saturn because it is that deeply rooted love. You know, it is like a lasting love. It is devotion in our creative work. It's just a devotion, you know, even to our own sense of love of ourselves, that is hard won and something that cannot be taken away. I feel like the lessons we learn with Saturn are just, yeah, the things that we can never unlearn, truly. Or it takes a long time to change them. And Saturn's really, you know, the wisdom of our heart, and it can truly also be even the grief that we're holding in our heart, the heaviness in our heart. I really hold a lot of, you know, compassion for anyone who has this archetype in their natal chart because it can signal periods of being really isolated. You know, Venus is our social circles, and it can mean feeling cut off from them. It can even mean feeling cut off from our desires altogether, going through just periods of time where we don't feel like we have access to that whatsoever. So during this transit, you know, or when you have, like maybe Saturn is actually in aspect right now to your Venus in your chart, you might be experiencing that feeling of isolation and just feeling cut off, or feeling like there's a barrier between yourself and those more Venusian things. Sometimes it's hard to create when we feel that restricting force around us. So I just encourage folks who are experiencing that to remember that it's not always going to be that way, and that the more we can give ourselves grace, the more that we can just hold on in any capacity to the knowing that there's going to be another side, like that we're going to come through and have a greater understanding. I think the more we can just return to a place of non-judgment when we're in those states, the better off we'll be. And that's kind of what can create more of the like loosening of any rigidity that Saturn might be causing. It's kind of that thing where we really have to lean into surrender in those moments and just, you know, allow ourselves to make it through to the next moment. And another thing with Venus and Saturn is Venus is the things that we love, and with that combination, Venus is really pointing to a love of that sense of structure, a love of the containment itself, a love of or having loving boundaries, right? So once we are able to create that level of security within understanding, you know, what actual structures do I need in place to make me feel safe, it really allows for such a depth of love blossoming forth. And that is truly, you know, speaking to the gifts that Saturn brings when we are really taking the time to learn that about ourselves, and allowing just the time that it does take for that blossoming and that maturation to happen. So Yeah, I hope that this gave a little bit more of a full understanding of this archetype, and I'm sure more messages will come through in the pick a card itself. But I just wanted to offer that little kind of precursor description of this combination before we got into it. All right, everyone, I will see you momentarily. Okay, welcome back. And here are the 3 piles, the cards to represent each pile. So we have Portal with number 23. We have Support, number 45, and Seasons with number 64. So this reading can be taken in like 3 different ways, whereas the first way, this combination of Saturn meeting Venus is happening exact on the 21st, and we'll be feeling the impact of that between March 17th to the 25th. So if you're watching this when it comes out, you can definitely apply it for that time period, and this archetypal combination is going to be really active in the sky during that time. It's at 12 degrees Pisces for those of you who like that, to look at that in your own chart. So if you have anything at 12 degrees Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius, this could potentially be impacting you in a more significant way. Also, this reading is timeless and can be looked at from the approach of if you have Venus and Saturn in aspect in your birth chart, you can look at the messages in a more general way to your life whenever you're finding this, or if you're having a transit of one of those planets to the other in your chart. Like if you, for example, are going through Saturn transiting, coming into like a conjunction with your Venus at this time period, that this might be an important reading for you. And of course, always, if you find resonance and messages in here, even if you know nothing about astrology, then obviously this reading was for you. So please take a deep breath, center yourself, and just take a moment to decide with your intuition whatever card is kind of pulling your attention, or cards, or even all 3. So, okay, I will see you in your reading. Hey, group 1, y'all chose the Portal card, number 23. So we've got the image of this dark blue door and the stairway over the ocean and the full moon. I think that's speaking to the Pisces energy, Saturn in Pisces, and Venus coming to meet up with this planet. So yeah, one thing the book about this card speaks to is embracing life cycles, which I think is really interesting for, Saturn, thinking of Saturn coming through to bring these messages. And that doors open to us at certain points in our growth and in our evolution. And perhaps now is one of those times when that is happening for you. And the number 23, that goes down to the number 5, which 5s are always about some kind of a change or turning points. And this really, I think, is speaking to that, where, there are these steps going upward, and it's really feeling like it has the energy of adventure, of new possibilities, of just something opening up that's been unexplored. And at the same time, it's like this stairway is really old. It's really weathered, and it makes me feel like you've actually had to mature a lot with that Saturn quality of like the time that it takes to be able to access certain things. And like now that you've been through this process, that is actually something new is opening up for you here. And perhaps in the realm of Venus. So whether that's in relationship, in your social circles, in your creative endeavors. Pisces is such a beautiful place for Venus in terms of creativity and really just allowing that depth of imagination to come through and just be able to play. I think, yeah, Venus with Saturn has that potential too, where in Pisces, where it's not just like I'm in my imaginal realm all day, but I'm not actually creating anything. Like, I think the two of them coming together is actually like a really huge potential of bringing some kind of creative dream to fruition in a really tangible way. So maybe this portal is kind of like speaking to the craft of walking these stairs. And now you're ready to like have a new approach, new imaginal, magical way of looking at something you've been maybe stuck in one certain frame of mind around, and now there's this breakthrough where you can take what you've learned, and now with Venus coming to meet Saturn in Pisces, it's a new opportunity to seed a new project of some kind, a new creative project, or a new collaboration with someone, or like a team of people, or yeah. Let's get some cards. I'm kind of thinking today of doing like a card for Venus, a card for Saturn, and then one of them like coming together. So we're gonna try that. The energy is very Venus Saturn today. I feel like I'm like in a very like perfectionist state around this whole reading today. So I'm trying to just like not be in a judgy place right now. Anyways, yes, lean into the Saturn wanting to create the structure and just try to go with my own timing here. So with this deck, we're gonna get 3 cards. The first will be a message from Venus, the second will be a message from Saturn, and then their combined message. So, what does group 1 need to know from Venus? Venus, what are your messages? What is your message to group 1 this time? Collective 1. Well, that's 2 plain cards. Fledgling. This is the Fool card. Okay. Saturn. Messages. Saturn, do you have for collective 1? Message do you have? Collective 1. Okay, Architect of Vessels, that is the King of Cups. We'll do final energy here. Is this archetypal combination wishing to convey to group 1, collective, 1. Traveler of Stones. This is the Knight. Yeah, the Knight of Pentacles. Well, these 3 cards feel absolutely in line with what I was saying before. Let me hold these up so you can take a view here. So we've got the fledgling with that Fool energy. The archetype of vessels, King of Cups, and Traveler of Stones, which is the Knight of Pentacles. So everything I was saying with this portal energy of kind of an opportunity for grounded creativity, for moving in a new way creatively, I feel like it's coming through here with the Fool, and also this King of Cups. Because the King of Cups here is really like, I just love the artistry of that is being depicted in this card on this vessel itself, which is kind of this beautiful, you know, hand carved and painted, it looks like, container that holds this entire ocean within, which feels like holding all of the imagination of that Pisces realm, all of the creativity, all of their, you know, intuitive impulses for creation. It feels like existing in this like beautifully crafted bottle. And we have the head, the skull at the top, which this came out last week too in a reading, but I'm getting a very different feeling around it. This to me is really speaking to that maturity within a creative practice where you've really honed your craft, like through a lot of Saturnian study and practice, to really be able to create this level of beauty and mastery. And the cups, watery energy, really bringing through the way that we're able to, you know, use our emotions to express what's in our heart, to creatively share ourselves in the world as well, and access that intuition through our depth of feeling. So I feel like with this conjunction happening in Pisces, it is really looking to that kind of imaginal, creative impulse. Yeah, and the Fool here is just another confirmation, like that this, whenever we have a conjunction, it's starting a brand new cycle. So the Fool coming out is, I think, just reinforcing that fact of like, maybe it is a time to start a new practice, a new way of doing something in the realm of creativity. But this could also be related to any kind of partnerships or social interactions too. It could be related to love, just really like understanding where you've come from in terms of that, like where you've grown already, like these steps I was talking about, like where have I matured with Saturn already, where I'm sort of ready to open up to something new in love or in my creative practice, or just reassessing even like your values, reassessing what it is you actually desire anymore at this point in time. And with both of them coming together, to display this Knight of Pentacles. It really feels like a like just kind of giving that understanding of this new beginning, while it might be, because it is like, this is Saturn and Venus speaking together, like it's not going to be necessarily that like full like bursting forth and entering a brand new world like immediately. This is really giving me that energy of like, yes, I'm taking the quality of all of where I've already been, and I am using that intelligence and that wisdom that I've gained from that to move me forward in a very sturdy and grounded like path, to lead me forward on a sturdy and grounded path, is what that feels like. Yeah, these cards to me are really inspiring, because I feel like this is such a beautiful time period for a reassessment and an opportunity to just chart out in a new direction, but not like without any like wisdom, or without, you know, any idea of where you're going. It's like, no, I like, this is a very intentional new direction, and you might be exploring something new, but you're doing it because you are very in touch with what your desires actually are. Like, you're very aware of all of the paths you've already taken, and how they've brought you to this point, and like why you're choosing this direction. So I think that's really amazing to be at that point. And it just feels like a really good and exciting time, to be honest, for the folks watching this. And yeah, I kind of want to draw like one more card here. I've got an oracle. I'm gonna draw this one. So what's a kind of final message here for collective one? Saturn message. Okay, we have emotions. This sea creature coming through, jellyfish looking being. And maybe I wasn't highlighting enough of this King of Cups in the emotional realm that's coming forward as well through the creative practice. I feel like the emotions card showing up is like a reminder that so much of your gift comes through the emotional realm, and when you're able to really put it into practice, or allow it rather to like flow through your creative practices, to flow naturally through your life, without creating restrictions and without creating without holding judgment. Saturn can bring a lot of judgment wherever it is in a chart, and with Venus there can be judgment around how we are in relationship, judgment of our physical body, judgment of the way that we experience pleasure. It just it can be a difficult aspect to hold sometimes if we're not understanding or knowing how to step outside of that. And so I feel like the emotions card coming through with this, like, it's just so free, which doesn't always like come through to me as Saturnian. You know, like free flowing is not very Saturn energy to me. So I feel like this card is just reminding us, like, oh right, like remember to relax in when I'm feeling that constriction happen, particularly around emotions, and that it's not actually, like, it's in our best interest to be as like relaxed as we can with our emotional depths and with the flow of that. And actually the Saturnian piece then is when we learn how to channel it into things like our creativity, and into just to be able to learn more about who we are. Our emotions are really our greatest teachers because they're telling us every single moment like what we desire and what we don't, which is that Venus energy. So I think that this feels like the glue in a way, like bringing Saturn and Venus together. And there's a need to offer presence to whatever it is wanting to come forward in whatever capacity that you're able to, of course. Even like if it's difficult for you to feel like you have space to hold emotions, like even just giving yourself a structured time period to fully feel into something that has been difficult for you to face can be really helpful. Like Saturn being that structure, that form. So creating like a physical like time period and even separating yourself to give space to the emotions could be really helpful too. And I think like adding the Venusian quality to that, like once that has happened, like also pulling in more creative ways of letting those emotions be expressed could be really great as well. So there's a lot of generative possibilities through accessing your emotional realms, and I think both Venus and Saturn are encouraging you to use their strengths, to lean on their strengths as you approach your emotional life. Yeah. If there's anything else. I think this Traveler of Stones too, like I love this card just in, it looks like they're just dropping these stones. It's kind of like little gifts for the collective. And I think it's good to reiterate that whatever you're creating, whatever magic you're creating at this time, that it's not just for you. And a lot of the times, the things that we create with Saturn take a really long time to come to fruition, and sometimes we might never see it in our lifetime even, or the fruits of that. And I think this is just saying that there's always beauty to be found in that process, and the more we can just continue like that sort of devotion to our craft, whatever it is, or devotion in our relationships, devotion in our social like community spaces, that is like, if we can find the love and we can find the satisfaction in that, the better off that will be, because there is magic to be found and satisfaction to be found just in the process. Okay, group 1. Those are the messages I'm seeing. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you like this. It really helps other folks get to see the messages, and share whatever makes you happy. Leave a comment if this resonated. I would so love to hear from you. And yeah, you can check out any offerings I have. I'm an astrologer. I do natal chart readings. I have one-on-one longer programs that you can work with me. So definitely check that out if you're interested. And thank you again so much for being here. I will see you in another reading, I hope. Bye. Welcome, group 2. You chose this card, Support, number 45. So right away, I'm looking at this anchor, and one of the things I always think about with Venus and Saturn is the idea of an anchored love. You know, the stability that having long-lasting connections can offer us in our life in so many different ways. And this card, it feels like it's coming through as a recognition, maybe, of some kind of loss that has occurred in that realm of like perhaps losing a connection of some sort in your life and needing to rely or make sure that you're getting support from others in your life to help you through that time. Whatever it is, it feels like some sort of a disconnection or a loss. Where it's really important to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with those who understand you. And at the same time, it can be really hard, really, really difficult, especially with Venus and Saturn, to know how to ask for help and to feel even open to that. It can actually sometimes feel more comfortable to be in an isolated place when your heart's been wounded with Venus and Saturn. And I think this is kind of a reminder that, yeah, like take your space, but also make sure that you are allowing yourself some connection with people who hold a place you hold trust with, mutual trust with. The butterfly image over this person's face too is kind of making me feel like whatever it is you're going through is really an internal process and something that's difficult for you to express to others, which can also be something that makes it really hard to share with other people. There can be this feeling of like, even if people are seeing you, maybe they're not actually seeing you clearly, or even it being hard for you to see yourself at this time too. And I feel like that's also like this conjunction happening in Pisces. Like being in Pisces energy can be sometimes just really confusing and a lot of fog in general over what it is that we're experiencing, and like an inability to like tangibly grasp onto what it is that's happening. It's funny, like, that this is also kind of in a, like, a picture frame. Almost like, which just seems to reiterate, like, long-term connections, like the people who you actually have, like, photos of, you know, and, like, choose to put up in your home, or even, like, family legacies or something. I really get the sense of, like, this person, like, even though there's someone there, just being alone, even when they're connected. And that is such a Venus Saturn combination, like, a piece of that combination that can happen is just, like, no matter where you are, just kind of having that sense of being alone. And that, to me, is really, it is part of the journey when we enter into those spaces, to just try not to hold too much judgment over ourselves for being in that experience, or being in that experience again, or whatever it may be. And while it is really isolating, to still remember to put ourselves, you know, like I was saying earlier, like, make sure that you still are holding some connection to other people at this time, even if it's a really lonely time. I'm gonna pull a few cards and see what else wants to come through. I've been doing a card for Venus, a card from Saturn, and then one for the connecting energies. I'm getting distracted. Okay, we're gonna do card from Saturn. Saturn, what are your message? What's your message for group 2? Message from Saturn. Just noting that the star is on the back from Saturn. All right, and final card. This combination. Venus and Saturn wish to convey to group 2. Two of Vessels, which is the Two of Cups in this deck. And we've got the Ace of Vessels, the Ace of Cups, and the Two of Stones, which is the Two of Pentacles. So as this message from Venus, this Two of Vessels, I always find it interesting in this deck that this card, like there's such a like kind of severity or sincerity in this person's face, and like it doesn't necessarily give the same like joy and connection that I get with other cards, with other decks with the Two of Cups. And it almost like with this blood being poured out, it feels like I mean, to me, I wonder if this is about like a family member or family ties, or just like connections that run really deep where you're maybe experiencing some pain or difficulty at this time. And yeah, just finding it difficult to trust. Like trust feels also relevant in this reading. And then we have another two with the Two of Stones, and then the Ace too. So Saturn's message coming through with this Ace of Vessels, which is the Ace of Cups. Which I think is kind of interesting that there's like, it's not actually water inside of this vessel, it's like a whole world. There's like, it looks like a little river, and they're kind of just outdoors. I don't know, just think that's kind of an interesting depiction. But coming from Saturn, so if we're thinking about an ace as like a new opportunity or a new beginning, like this is a conjunction that's happening right now between Venus and Saturn. So this could be Saturn sort of stepping in to remind you that like you hold the power to create what it is you want to feel emotionally in relationship to other people. And that this is something that grows and evolves as you mature as a person and as you deal with different people and different relationships over the course of your life. I just can't shake, like, there is this sense of kind of loneliness in the energy, even though we have like this ace here. And then we've got this Two of Pentacles. So with the Two of Pentacles, perhaps in this area, like in these relationships, I think maybe this is a point where you're really needing to ask yourself, like, what you can offer and what you actually really want to receive. And that is such a blessing of Venus and Saturn coming together, is like gaining that real rooted, clear understanding of your needs and what it is you value, which really supports choosing partners and being in relationships that are going to actually nurture your own growth. And there's like, it almost feels like this butterfly could land on one or the other and it's just gonna fall over, because maybe there has been an imbalance for you, or just like a not being fully clear yet on what that means, or feeling really cut off from understanding what those desires are. So maybe this Ace of Vessels is actually Saturn coming through to be like, you restart yourself, like, and this is the time right now to really hone in on what is my Ace of Cups, like, what is that thing that is my entire world, like, what does that emotional fulfillment even look like to me? And maybe in that Saturnian fashion, like actually trying to write down some of those things for yourself, particularly as it relates to your social circles, to your partnerships, even how you want to engage with family members. I think, oh, and I did mention the star was on the back of the deck when I drew this card, and I think that's meaningful as well, because there is kind of, even though Saturn can be kind of like a heavy energy and there's a sincerity to it, I think with the star showing up, it is like offering that sense of like hope, and that it is okay to dream. I feel like when we're in this state of feeling so isolated, even when we're surrounded by people, it can feel like not even okay to dream anymore, and that's a really difficult place to be in. One really interesting practice that's coming to mind that I heard from a trauma counselor recently was to, you like give yourself like 5 minutes a day to literally come up with the most extreme example of your life that like is totally impossible. So like creating a surreal fantasy essentially of what your life could be, and like the most amazing, weird, like fantastical thing you could ever imagine, and just like allow yourself a certain like amount of time every day to like envision that when you're in like such a place of disconnection and just feeling isolated, or difficulty like entering into states of, you know, being able to experience love for yourself and things like that. Because when we're accessing the part of our brain that feels like hope and that can actually have dreams, and where we can feel like, yeah, hope of any kind, it totally, we're not actually capable of also having like fear at the same time. So when you do that, even if it's completely ridiculous, it actually gives yourself relief, and it helps your brain rewire in these new ways. And I think that's really interesting. So maybe someone needed to hear that. I loved that practice. So yeah, I mean, maybe even like draw a jar and create some kind of art or picture inside of it of like what your wildest fantasy could be, you know, just doing silly things, I think could be helpful. Like I feel both of them, you know, Venus and Saturn both coming through with the Two of Stones. It's like there is a need for rebalancing between self and other. And, you know, we are having this eclipse season coming upon us soon that is going to be in the sign of Aries and Libra, which is all about self and partnership and the other partnerships. So figuring out your own values and being really sturdy in that, I think is going to be could be really helpful for you moving forward. And like Saturn is really wanting to offer you that opportunity in this moment, with Venus present at the same time, like giving this kind of creative and softer lens to Saturn. I think it's just an opportunity to go a little bit just create something for yourself in a way that doesn't feel as difficult or as rigid. You know, with them both coming together, Venus, anytime Venus makes contact with a planet, it's also expressing love for that planet. So Venus then maybe expressing love to the structures that you are able to create for yourself at this time, and really kind of creating that outpouring of love towards whatever those boundaries are, whatever is helping you define who you are in relationship to others at this time. So I'm gonna draw one more card here, like from this oracle deck, to see if anything else wants to come through. Venus and Saturn. Final messages. We have the abundance card coming through, and also rebirth. So the abundance card coming out is really talking about the ability to actually feel into the things that satisfy us in life. You know, the Venus, if we're thinking about Venus, like there's many ways that we can obviously get satisfaction in our lives aside from Venusian things. But if we're looking at this message from Venus, like what are the simple pleasures? That's really what's coming through to me, is like finding a way to tap into at the most simple level the things that bring us comfort and where we can feel connected to ourselves, to others, to something greater than us, that makes us kind of loosen or feel less in this state of isolation and being cut off from others. And it feels too like giving ourselves grace and giving others in relationship grace as well, when we're able to just be more present to what is actually working in our lives, even if it's really small things, even if it's just like my computer was working properly today, you know, like I was able to get out of bed and brush my teeth. Like, I think the more presence we give to our appreciation, the more that's able to grow. And I'm sending love to people who are feeling really resentful about me saying that right now, because I totally understand that feeling. And I say just try as much as possible to release that judgment of self. Like, even if you are feeling resentment, like, okay, I'm gonna offer love to the resentment, you know, like, and keep going, and keep noticing. Like, if at any point of my day I notice something I like, I'm actually gonna pay attention to it, and I'm gonna try to focus on it for as long as I can until I feel like a different feeling, right? And this rebirth card here goes really well with that, I think, and with the Ace of Vessels, because it's saying like this feels actually like star card energy too. Like there is so much potential into manifesting dreams, into things coming into your life that are part of your wildest dreams in some ways, you know. And this could signal a rebirth in relationships, in your own relationship to yourself, a rebirth in this cycle that maybe you've been stuck in of feeling a lot of disconnection to others. Part of me wonders when Aries season begins, if that might bring a sense of renewal, and really could offer a lot of support in you moving through some of the confusing feelings that can come when we're in that state of just like, I cannot connect and I don't understand why. And yeah, it feels like that is part too. I'm just like noticing the Two of Stones and that balancing between what is right in front of you, even if it's like feels meaningless, and then what is like our wildest dreams, and like finding a way for those to both be present so that we can continue to like baby step our way into the life that we really desire. And sometimes it takes both having, like I was saying, that like complete unrealistic fantasy, being able to like go there and also be like, hey, that like toast I had today was tasty, you know. Like being happy about that, or not even happy, but just being like, that was a pleasurable moment. Cool. So I feel like both of these qualities are here, and Venus and Saturn coming together are really giving you a chance to play with both of those energies of like vision boarding the fantasy, which could be the reality in the future, and also the practical everyday experiences of satisfaction, of pleasure that you actually are able to have access to in every single moment. So I hope that resonated. I'm sending you so much support and care right now, and I hope that you have people in your life who can see you, and if you don't, I see you, and I know that the divine sees you in some way, even, or whatever you believe in, you know. Like, one thing that practicing astrology has really showed me is just how not alone I actually am. Another practice, more grounded in learning that, is like literally just go outside, especially in the summertime when like all the bugs are really loud. It's like, wow, I am literally not alone ever. All of these creatures are around me in every moment. I think like it is a journey to get there, and working through that loneliness, and I think we all struggle at different points in our lives with it to varying degrees. So my heart goes out to you, group number 2. I hope that these messages were supportive for you, and thank you so much for watching. If you're curious about working with me, I do astrology sessions, and I also have one-on-one like a longer term program of working with me. You can check it all out on the website I have in the description box. And yeah, I'm posting these on every Sunday, so I would love to have you back. Please subscribe if this was resonating or you got, something from this, or give it a like, comment if you so wish. Yeah, sending you a lot of deep compassion and care and hope as well. Yeah, much love. Hey, group 3. Y'all chose this seasons card, number 64, which really feels like the most Saturnian card of the 3. Saturn being the ruler of time, and this really depicting that through the moon cycles being shown here, and also these hands, these weathered, aged hands. So having this come out, I think I'm really feeling a sense of needing to trust the timing of whatever it is in your life that you're needing to do that around at this time. Venus and Saturn coming together makes me think of a seed going into the earth, and that the soil is kind of like Saturn compacting it around the seed, but also what it is that it's allowing, the thing that allows it to grow, along with the, the rain and weather conditions, of course, but Saturn being like that containing force. One of the ways I've looked at Venus-Saturn aspects in the past, which also I guess could be very Moon-Saturn too, but is like the idea of like a baby who's born premature and like has to be like held in an incubator, so like being separated from touch, and it's all like in service of the growth and nurturance of the child, but it doesn't necessarily feel that way sometimes. I think we all go through that, and like sometimes it is a season of deep interconnection, and other times it's at the time for introspection. And this card, I feel like is like, maybe this is a season of contemplation for you, or maybe you're just like coming out of that or going into it. It just depends. There's many people watching this reading, of course. But regardless, it feels like this idea of stillness and even darkness is coming through. And Venus with Saturn does sort of bring that sense of quiet in growth, the quiet parts of the times that we're developing. Yeah, and even this person being in shadow makes me feel like this is an inward looking time period, or has been, that you've been in terms of what part of the cycle that you're at. I'm gonna draw some tarot cards, and I've been doing one card from Venus, one from Saturn, and then kind of one for the collective combination of the two. So Venus. What do you have to share with group 3? Divine energy, Venus and Saturn. What is your synergy here for group 3? Okay. Wow, also a ton of cups is on the back, just noting that. Wow, all right. Group 3, you've got the Alchemist, which is Temperance in this deck, coming through. Which I love seeing the energies coming together just in talking about planetary combinations. I feel like that's a good way to visualize it. And then we have the Visionary of Vessels, which is the Queen? Yes, the Queen of Cups in this deck. And Ace of Branches, Ace of Wands. And 10 of Pentacles. Plus 10 of Cups, sort of, on the back. As the collective energy between the two, Saturn and Venus. These cards are giving me the impression that maybe you have been working on creating a home, creating a life that is really deeply fulfilling for you, both materially and emotionally, for a really long time. And I think Venus's message here with Temperance and also this Visionary of Vessels, I'm just so like drawn to this eye crying into the lotus flower, so that it might bloom, essentially, is what it feels like to me. It feels like, yeah, you have poured your like blood, sweat, and tears into something that maybe you have had to wait for a really long time, and that could be related to a relationship, to some kind of like way that you express yourself creatively, maybe in your craft, something in your life that you just highly value, and you have been willing and have been putting in a lot of work towards. And I think it also has been requiring you to be like this alchemist, to be able to hold a place of knowing when to push forward and knowing when to relax and let things kind of flow at the same time. And maybe you've been in that pushing space for a long time, and that's why this stillness is coming through. Perhaps asking you to give yourself a moment of stillness if you've been working really hard, or just telling you, like, honoring the fact that you have been holding that stillness too, even amidst the work that you've been putting in. With the Ace of Wands coming through from Saturn, I love that. It's very unexpected. But I feel it's also just bringing us back to the fact that this is a new moon moment where Venus and Saturn are coming together, And it does feel like maybe then an opportunity of kind of a renewal, a renewed faith maybe in the things that you have been striving for in your relationships or in your creative work or the things that you're really passionate about. Like this time with Venus and Saturn, or just this combination is like giving you this like deepened spark. Not just to say like, okay, let's just keep pushing forward, but it is actually like an excitement for the path ahead. Whether or not you keep doing the same thing or if something new is going to be required as you continue on. And I think the two coming together through the 10 of Stones, through the 10 of Pentacles, whatever it is that you've been pouring yourself into is truly building this creating this beautiful legacy to leave for yourself and your community. I think like the 10 of Pentacles can really speak to Venus and Saturn because it takes a long time to reach the 10, which is Saturn. Saturn takes time. And then we have the Venusian quality of like creating a beautiful home, a happy home, creating harmonious relationships. Like it is a wonderful partnership of Saturn and Venus coming together to be able to create something like this. And it really takes both of them working together to be able to reach this level of completion and this level of satisfaction and permanence too. Hearing that. I really love this depiction of temperance, and this is kind of giving me the vibe too of like maybe your creative life or whatever it is that this is ringing true for you in terms of the things you're passionate about are also blending with your relationships, and you're really like synthesizing the two in this way that is creating something brand new, and that feels really exciting. And also really challenging, so just honoring that if that's ringing true for you. And maybe that's why there's been a lot of time crying in the bathtub and trying to, needing to nurture yourself and understand like the edges of your own being as you're merging your creations and your life with other people. Kind of want to get another card, see if anything else wants to come through from this oracle deck. Janus, Venus and Saturn, what messages do you have? this card? Greatness. Cover that up. And involution. So I'm just gonna read a little thing. The involution card says, involution as an esoteric concept can be viewed as the process of integrating the growth of our consciousness in conjunction with the growth of our living universe. And so if you think of evolution as kind of this development into something new, involution then is like the integrating point. It's almost like I've also heard it described as being so fully present in this material world that we like forget ourselves as a divine being, which is fine. It's actually like that's just part of the process too, like that we get so wrapped up into our material lives, especially when we're focusing on such amazing legacies that we want to leave, like with this 10 of Pentacles, that we can just forget also that we are not necessarily, we're not really this body, right? We're more than that. Like we are this body, of course, but we're more than that at the same time. So I love that coming through with greatness, because this card actually talks about the need to remember our greatness, and that our greatness in terms of being a divine being. And so it is kind of trying to hold both of these things of like, yes, like get swept away, like let yourself be wholly focused on this goal, and on being completely present in the structures that you're creating in your life, in the beautiful things that you want to leave behind, that you are seeing like outliving even you. That's really what I'm getting the sense of with whatever this is. And at the same time, just remember, no matter what, like no matter where you are in this cycle, that you are divine greatness at all times. And so being able to kind of like, in that true alchemist fashion, like hold that knowing, and at least be able to weave them together in your remembrance in a daily way. Like that's really going to support whatever it is that you're working on, and as it will support you emotionally and mentally as you move forward, and spiritually, like to hold that spiritual understanding as you're going forward. Yeah, I think sometimes with Saturn, we can end up becoming overly focused on the goal, and then sort of punish ourselves for where we are in our process. And with Venus and Saturn in this conjunction coming through, it is, I think, reminding us like to tap into the things that allow us to feel pleasure in the moment, allow us to tap into this feeling of greatness in yourself, to not forget the moment-to-moment capacity that you have to access your own beauty, and to not forget what it is that you are ultimately trying to create, because you're going to be in this process for a very long time. And so just not to forget, I guess, why you're doing it, the way that you want to feel as you're going through it, because that matters a lot too. And this card involution, and thinking about integration, like how when we are on this very like linear trajectory or course of something that we're working on, it can be like we can forget about this step sometimes, and like that need to integrate the experiences. And yeah, I just feel like, especially with this Ace of Branches, there is this like very like, I'm gonna keep like my eyes on the prize, and I'm like moving forward as quick as I possibly can. So I think this card is also coming out just to be like, but don't forget to be fully present in the process, like as you're going along. And that's actually like sinking into the experience fully is going to give you way more pleasure in the long run than just like working on a task while thinking about the 15 more things that you have to do, you know, while you're trying to do the thing. Like allowing yourself like full immersion into whatever part of the process you're in feels like the message here. And especially too, just even with the seasons card, it's like, yeah, this is remember what season you're in and just accept that and be willing to go full on in whatever that is, because seasons change. You know, so it's always going to keep cycling, you know, we're just going to keep moving. So I feel like those are the messages that really wanted to come through. Let me know if this is resonating for any of y'all and what you're working on here. What are you building? This seems like a big project or dream or something. Yeah. Thank you, everyone who watched this, for sharing your energy with me. Thank you to Venus and Saturn for coming through with these messages. If you're curious to work with me, I do give astrology readings, and I also have a program to work one-on-one with me more long-term. I am sharing these readings every Sunday, so feel free to subscribe, and then you'll be able to know when I'm posting. And yeah, or just give it a like, whatever, if you liked it. And hopefully I'll see you in another reading. Thanks again so much. Bye.